Hello, my name's Chris Beard from Improve Your Landscape Photography here on Facebook. Bit wrapped up at the moment, big down jacket on, it's very early in the morning, been up at 4 o'clock, come out here to Fiddlers Ferry Power Station to photograph it. It's one of the power stations that they're actually considering decommissioning and turning off, so we're not going to have an opportunity to photograph this place for much longer with steam coming out of the towers. So as I say, it's up at about 4 o'clock this morning, an hour's journey here. We've been here since about 6:30. Our idea for this shot was to frame the power station. As you can see, it's quite still. The steam is coming almost vertically. The sun was going to rise off from my left, your right. I'm going to side light the steam, the sky, the cloud that's there. The only thing we haven't got in our favour today was the River Mersey here was a bit low. It would be nice to have it high tide so we could have actually got reflections of the power station in the water there. But never mind, we've had a good morning. Planning, that's the key. There's an app you can get for your phone called the Photographer's Ephemeris, which will tell you where the sun rises and the sun sets. So we knew the sun was coming up over here, was going to illuminate the steam and also the cooling towers. We've set up here on the Runcorn side. We're down as close as we can get, thick mud down there, we can't go any further. Set up our cameras, nice sturdy tripod, lens to do our composition, remote release so we don't have to touch our camera, we can get our images as sharp as possible. And we also use mirror lockup. So this is just going to be a very quick tutorial. We'll go back now and we'll have a look at some of the images that we've taken this morning, and I'll write a little bit about them for you. So if you're in the area and you fancy coming down and doing the shot for yourself, you can do it. As I say, this is Chris Beard, one of the first videos here on Improve Your Landscape Photography. So I hope to see you around a bit more. If you like it, give us a tick. See you soon. Bye. So it's nice to be back home in the warm after that cold start. Let's have a look at exactly where we were this morning. So here is a map of the northwest of England, Manchester over here, Liverpool just to the left of centre, down into the Wales and the bottom left hand corner. So this is the area we were in, which is Runcorn, just west of Warrington. Let's go in for a closer look and see exactly where we were. This area I've highlighted here is Fiddlers Ferry Power Station, and this is the location we were shooting from, Asmore, which is just in Runcorn. So we were down here on the banks of the River Mersey, looking across the Mersey up towards the power station. Just one note, if you do decide to come here, your satellite navigation system on your car will almost likely take you this way in. You can't get through the road here, so you have to come through Asmore Road. So make sure before you come, your satellite navigation has your route planned to come down Asmore Road into Wig Island here, which is the shooting location. I have another screenshot for you, which I'll show at the end, which will actually give you the exact location for coming in there. So let's move on and let's have a look at some of the images I took this morning. Okay, it's now time to have a look at some of my images from this morning in Lightroom. So all the images here are opened up. Just go into our library. We can see I've uploaded just a few of them. The two in red are the ones that I have processed. These are PSD files. The rest you can see are all my raw files, DNGs. So I'll go through a few of them and just explain what my thought process was behind taking the images and how I actually developed the image until I ended up at my final ones, which were these two here. So this is the first image I took when I arrived there. Now, it's not often you get the steam coming out of the towers as high as this. Usually the breeze that's around will actually blow it off to one side or the other, and it it won't come up as high as this. So my first idea was to try and capture all the steam as it came out, because as you can see, the sky is beautifully clear here. It stands out quite nicely, even though we're still, you know, quite a while before the sun actually breaks the horizon. We can just see the colour developing on the horizon there. So I framed this. I was using a 24-105 f4 lens. As you can see, I was at 35mm, ISO 100, f11 and a 1.3 second exposure. So I framed it to make sure I got all the steam in. Reviewed it on the back of the camera and decided, where can I go from here? This image to me was all about the steam. The actual power station itself has disappeared into the distance. It becomes a very small part of the frame. And also I've got a lot of black area here. This is just scrubland. It's not very attractive at all. We can just see a little bit of detail in there. But I wasn't happy with it. I wasn't happy with this big dark area. I wanted something a little different. I noticed these posts in the water, and I wonder whether that could actually form a little bit of foreground interest. So for my next image I went in a little bit tighter. So I'm now up to 58mm, 1 second at f11. So as you can see now, the power station's become a lot more prominent in the frame. These sticks, posts in the water, make a nice little addition, especially as they're in this bright area here. Forms almost a visual stop on the right hand side of the image. But what we've done, we've actually lost a lot of this steam, which was one of the main reasons for the photograph. But I persevered, I waited, and as the sun started to rise, it still wasn't above the horizon. We can see pink appearing in the clouds and in the steam here. I've gone in a little tighter now to make the power station, or the electricity generating station, a lot more prominent. And as I'm taking these series of images, we can now see the pink starting to develop in the sky and in the clouds and the steam. I like the detail that's starting to show in the steam here. We can see the lights and shadows here. It's getting really quite prominent here. This is the raw file, and I'm really starting to get excited at this stage. Develops a little bit more. As I say, now I'm still fairly tight on the power station, so I decided to go back and turn the camera into portrait mode. So this way I could capture the steam at its full extent and a lot of the foreground, stitch some images together in Photoshop afterwards, and then crop. So we can see the beautiful light now on this steam as we go through these series of images. Absolutely beautiful, developing really nicely. Here are the fence posts still in the water, obviously not in a bright patch at the moment. And then the final one, because I noticed there were a couple of cranes on the horizon here, and I thought they might make a nice visual stop on the right hand side of the frame and allow me to include a little bit more steam in the right hand corner. So I actually put these through Photoshop. I'll show you some of the settings I used in the develop module. As you can see, I didn't do a huge amount to them. The first thing is I have a profile for my camera, which is a Canon 5D Mark III. Saves using one of the other profiles. If we look at just how the image changes, Adobe Standard, Adobe Camera Faithful, Camera Landscape. That looks a little bit neon, doesn't it? Quite nice, but not a natural looking image. Neutral. Portrait, again, a lot of kind of purpley hues in that image. Camera Standard, and the one that's actually made for my camera, just actually brings out more of a dynamic range. So I say, not a lot there, just assign a profile for the image. I haven't done anything in the effects. Lens corrections, I've enabled profile corrections and removed chromatic aberration. Detail, now this is for a raw file. We're not going to do all our sharpening at this stage. We just want to remove any traces of a low pass filter if your camera has one. So I usually set the sharpening at around 40, the radius down to 0.6, detail 25, masking 50. And I've applied some noise reduction. It was quite dark, 40th of a second. It's not a long exposure by any means, so we're not getting an awful lot of noise in the image, but it just helps to clean it up a little bit. And I'll be showing you in a future video tutorial how I go about these settings here. Nothing in split toning, nothing to the hue, saturation or luminance, they're all standard. Nothing in the tone curve. The basic panel here, very little, +8 on the vibrant, on the saturation, which isn't a lot, +18 on the vibrance, just to bring out those colours that aren't saturated, again not a lot. Clarity, just +4, just a very merest touch. I don't like to go too heavy on this. It is good using clarity on clouds, helps to bring out a lot more definition in the clouds, a lot more contrast, but for this image I've kept it around +4. Blacks, I've gone -8 just to make my blacks a little bit darker. Whites, +24 just to bring out a little bit more detail, a little bit more brightness in the highlights. Open my shadows up by just +19, not a great amount. Highlights, just drop my highlights by -9 points. +6 on the contrast and +0.45 on the exposure. So I'm sure you'd agree there isn't an awful lot there done to the raw file. White balance, 6000 and +33 as shot. Okay, I've just increased it by 100 points to about, and on the tint gone to the purple or the pink side to about +33. So again, not a huge amount at all. One thing that you must do when you are doing a panorama is select all your images and then synchronize your settings to ensure that all the same settings are synchronized across all your images. Open them in Photoshop, stitch them together, and that's what I ended up with. Slightly cropped for the 2 crane towers on the right hand side. I've got my fence posts here, some beautiful light in the steam coming up, nice sky, bit of blue in the sky here, the reflections in the water. As I said on the video while I was out there, it would have been nicer to have a high tide which would have hidden a lot of this foreground here and we would have got more reflections. But we can't have everything. It was important that we got a fairly still day where the steam would rise fairly high rather than being blown off to the right. So I think we did okay. A few minutes later, as we kept on shooting, I was still in portrait mode. The colours now changed. We lost that pink in the sky and it started to come more yellow and white. So again, 3 images here. Beautiful lighting on this central stack and the 2 outer ones now. Absolutely beautiful. And again, this time I cut off the 2 cranes and just used these fence posts as a stop on the right hand side. Stitching those together, that's what I had. Sorry, no I didn't stitch those together. I actually went into normal landscape format and took 2 images. There's one. See the light now on the sides of the cooling towers, absolutely gorgeous. Went in a bit tighter on the cooling tower. Starting to get light as the sun hits the ground now. And those are the two images I took, a panorama in landscape format, and then stitched them together to end up with that. That's the yellowy sky version. See the detail in the steam here. And then I just carried on shooting, went back into portrait format and got my final 3 images. Starting to get a lot brighter now. Again, still lovely detail, but I think we've actually lost that spectacular lighting and the depth of contrast now. And I had to make a video. So we stopped shooting around here and I made the video. So I hope that helps you have a look in a bit more detail at the making of these images at Fiddlers Ferry Power Station. I have to say, since I made the video, I did say that it was under threat of closure. That threat has now been lifted, so you don't have any worries. If you like to come up to Runcorn sometime and try and photograph these images for yourself, then the power station will still be in operation. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you liked it. Hope you enjoyed a few of my thoughts behind the making of the images and the processing of them. I haven't gone into too much depth at this time. In future videos, I will be going into more depth to help you. So please, if you like them, give me a tick, and I'll see you soon. This is Chris Beard on Improve Your Landscape Photography here on Facebook. See you again. Bye.